We're talking about Jordan Peterson's rules for parenting. The first one, don't miss the first 4 years.
You have little kids for 4 years, and if you miss it, it's done. That's it.
The second one, encourage risk. Don't overprotect.
When you have children, you have to encourage them. You have to encourage them to take risks because they have to grow up and take their place in the world. You can't protect them too much because if you do, you destroy them.
Third one, make your child socially desirable by age 4.
And if your child's a horrible little monster because you're afraid of disciplining them or you don't know how to do that properly, then what they're going to do is experience nothing but rejection from other children and false smiles from other parents and adults.
It's the goal of parenting right there.
We got spirit, and I know you hear it. There's no give up, give up, give up, give up in us.
All right, y'all, fire away. What are your takes?
In a society where people overparent and helicopter parent and don't want their kids to take risk, what we're in essence fostering and cultivating in kids is a fear of risk or not knowing how to take risk, or the idea that risk is inherently bad in every situation. And that the goal of life is to eliminate risk if you can. Well, like you think about the kind of society that creates. If you fast forward 20, 30 years from now, and every adult or the majority of adults believe that risk is inherently bad, like most of the good things that society's ever produced would not have been produced. Like every good business, every good church, every good nonprofit, every good organization at some point to come into existence and be productive had to take some significant risks. That's a reality. And so if we cultivate an environment where people don't take risk, like you will create a society that doesn't produce good stuff that promotes human flourishing. Think about how disaster that is for the potential innovation and productivity of our society.
Something that I say with Nicole is I'll say things like, we don't prevent cuts and bruises, we prevent lost fingers. So like basically like if Levi's going to do something that's going to result in him losing a finger, yes, that is the time to freak out and grab whatever is out of his hands. But I'm going to let him get bruises and cuts. And I also need to live that way as a man. So like that'll even come out in our relationship with each other. Like I'll be like, babe, grab the steering wheel when you feel like I'm driving off a cliff, not when you just like, you know,
see a pothole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The thing that resonated with me, but I think needs a bit of a caveat, was when he talked about it was the one about inviting the evil queen. So like don't raise naive children. And he talks about this, he uses the Sleeping Beauty like analogy, where, like kids need exposure to life's darkness. And my fear is that someone's going to hear that and confuse or conflate sending your kid into the lion's den as opposed to like inviting the evil queen on your terms.
I literally wrote The Lion's Den.
Yeah, like it's like, and it's like they didn't invite the evil queen to the birthday party or the christening or whatever it was in Sleeping Beauty, but it's like of course you wouldn't like invite the evil queen. But I like that analogy because it's like we can invite hard things. We can have hard conversations. We can talk about the difficult things that we've done. But we do it on our terms.
Yeah. My thought on that was, so my parents did this really well, but they wouldn't frame it like they invited the evil queen. Maybe they would, but the way they framed it to us as children was not that this is the evil queen. So I'm going to call out my grandma, but like they would not call her the evil queen, but they would basically be very clear that she has completely subscribed to the thinking of the world. So she was invited to things. We would spend time with her, but my parents were and same thing with other relatives. My parents were very careful to show like, hey, did you notice this about grandma? The reason she's like that is because she believes XYZ things. And so they used it as a teaching opportunity, but it was the same thing that you're saying. It was on their terms. Like if I basically just spent 8 hours a day with grandma, I would be discipled by grandma. Yeah. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think about this theme of like inoculation. Like you have to be exposed to the evil to know what it is and to know how to like handle it, how to resist it. So like this is the whole principle of like, how much do we shelter? People think like, oh, don't shelter your kids. Actually, no, I think we should shelter our kids, but there's a balance there. There's a discernment there required. But the principle of like actually being able to inoculate them against evil requires them to experience like what is evil, like what is the wrong. And when they can see that in a way that is in a parental kind of like influenced environment, in a teaching moment, like I love that example from you, because like that's like you're showing them what to look for, and then you're debriefing afterwards. That's powerful.
Yeah, and the wrong is always false beliefs. So that's where I disagree with Jordan Peterson. It's not that this person, well, the Bible teaches that we're all evil, but the particular evil that's being called out are whatever beliefs this person has that are evil. That's the reason they act the way that they act, do the things that they do, make the choices that they make.
That's a really powerful point. Is like teaching your kids that. It's like we're not against the person, we're actually for the person. But like this is the there is darkness, there is evil, and yeah, that person may be filled with that darkness and evil, but we love that person. But we're fighting against this evil, and we need to recognize what the evil is.
Yeah,
that's really good. When I was listening to Peterson, by the way, I really like your nuance or your caveat to Peterson's rule. I think it's helpful. We want to invite the evil queen on our terms. There are two things that stuck out to me. One, there's a famous quote from G.K. Chesterton, a famous author in the 1900s, who said, I may butcher the quote, but it's something to the effect of, dragons don't tell, or excuse me, fairy tales don't teach kids that dragons don't exist. Fairy tales teach children that dragons can be defeated.
I love that.
Just the idea of like, no, we want our kids to know there are real dragons in the world, but they can be defeated. And here's how you defeat them. And that leads to my second thought was, how do I practically do this with my kids? And so one of the things, I got this from two friends of mine, Joe Rigney and Abigail Dodds. They're both authors that I personally know. And so they've talked in their works about the yuck factor. Is that I want to instill in my kids the inclination to see something that is bad and to have a yuck response to it. And so in our house, we've been doing this. So anytime one of the kids does something that we don't want a behavior we don't want to reinforce, then we say yuck. And so Josiah, my 2-year-old boy, knows it's okay to wrestle with Dada. Yay, we celebrate that. You wrestle with that. But when he hits Letty, his 4-year-old sister, we go, yuck, boys don't hit girls.
That's amazing.
Nice.
And then Letty will come and Letty will be like, Dada, do boys and girls fight? I say no. And she'll go, yuck. Yeah. And then she said, Dada, do boys fight boys? I say, yeah. She go, yeah. She celebrates. And she'll tell me, Dada, body slam Josiah. And she loves it. And then I pick up Josiah and I body slam him on the couch. And he just thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. But like trying to instill in my kids from a young age,
I love that.
These are the things we celebrate, and these are the things we think are yuck. It's like when I hug Mama, and there have been moments where like me and Milena had a conflict, and I raised my voice, and I later said, Letty, when I raised my voice, that was yuck. She was, yeah, Dad shouldn't do that. That's yuck. And like I wanted her to know, hey, the behavior I demonstrated in that moment is actually yuck. When you see a man being frustrated with his wife in that way, you should go, oh, yuck. And I had to repent and say, I'm so sorry. Say, I'm sorry to Mama. I'm sorry that I did that. Like, I'm sorry I raised my voice to Mama in our home. That's unacceptable.
I'm stealing that. I'm going to start teaching Levi yuck.
You're welcome. I love that.
Thank you.
So to the roughhousing point, and it's one of his rules, and you obviously body slamming Josiah into the couch made me think of this, but like we've turned roughhousing into a bedtime ritual. So JJ will be standing on our bed, and he calls it playing bad guys, which is basically him standing on the bed and me tackling him like a linebacker. And I think it's like it is so fun, but like it's become, because I've seen all these TikTok videos that are like the physical nature of like a father roughhousing with his kids. Like there's something to that. Yeah. Like neurologically, like there's a lot going on there. Yeah. So it's like we kind of use it to get him to do other things in the bedtime ritual. So it's like, if you want to play bad guys with Daddy, you got to brush your teeth. And so like he now has no problem brushing his teeth at night because he knows he gets to play bad guys with Daddy. Brilliant. But it like working that into a regular rhythm so that I know that there's going to be like physical contact with he and I every night has been a really cool rhythm for us.
When did you guys start teaching your kids how to know when they're hurting mama? Because Levi he's 9 months. So I don't know if he's capable of understanding that like he's hurting mama. But like I want to teach him like, hey, don't scratch the inside of her nose. Don't try to claw her eyes out.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to start saying it now. I think. I mean, whether he comprehends it or not.
Yeah, I know. Lex just doesn't tolerate it. She gets offended and she like shows it. So I think like the mom, like the dad can back it up, but the mom has to kind of regulate that. Like the first time, like they are consciously biting her nipple. Like Lex was like, and she like does a little tap, and like they get all offended, they freak out. But yeah, I think it's our job to reinforce that. But I really think the moms like they set that tone for like, what am I going to tolerate, what I'm not.
Right. Our 3-year-old foster daughter bit the crap out of Lisa.
Oh, geez.
Oh, and like, I mean, like she was just like had her like in the towel walking in from bath time into her room to like get her dressed, and she just like bit her right there on the bicep. And she's never done that before.
Wow.
And Lisa like almost dropped her, like because it was just like, oh
Yeah.
And so like she's autistic, and so there's that like we're learning like what does she actually know that she's doing and what does she not know that she's doing.
Sure.
But I was like pretty stern, like we do not bite mama, we do not bite mama. And like we have 2 rules: honor mama and never tell a lie. And so it always kind of like rolls back to we honor mama in this house. Like Carberry's honor mama.
That's good.
And so I like in that instance, like I probably got a little bit too aggressive. I probably need to repent for like how I was like I was very stern with my language with her, but she's in the last couple of days has not bit again. So I'm like, maybe it was the right amount of stern. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's 9 months might be. I don't know how much is.
I don't know. I feel like I look at him and I'm like, I feel like there's understanding here.
Some understanding, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little glee in the eye when
Exactly. Focus on the Family years ago did some research on that, and I remember James Dobson, well-known evangelical clinician, he just recently passed. His argument was somewhere around between 9 months and 14 months, somewhere in that range. I think is what he said is where you can really begin to understand the consequences of your choices, or the ramification, like that your choices have ramifications. And so his suggestion was around 10 months is when you start introducing some sort of discipline. And so that's when we see, so if Josiah, our 2-year-old, would hit mama, so I would just flick him on the hand to let him know, hey, that is not acceptable. We want to introduce a minimal amount of pain almost immediately after the action, so that he knows you did this thing, and the consequence is this. You made a bad choice. So our kids know we don't just discipline you randomly. You made a bad choice that led to this thing. And it starts earlier than I think most people realize.
I was going to take it back to his first one when he's talking about like the first 4 years, essentially, like don't miss this. And like there is a very healthy view of that where it is such a precious time, and you don't get it back. You don't get any time back, right? There's a healthy view of that, but I also think there's like an unhealthy view of that where parents, and I hear it a lot too, even from Christian parents, where they're like, once their kids reach a certain age, they're kind of like pretty diminishing towards them, of like, oh, they hate me now. Like they're in the teen years, or they reach like a daughter reaches 10 and they're like, oh, now she hates mom. Or the same thing with the dad and his teenage sons. And it's like, I think like we should cherish the moment because like you don't get that time back. But one thing I've learned as my kids have gotten older, and I've talked to people who have grown kids, it's like every season actually is extremely rich, extremely like precious. And it's like if we just like anchored a parenthood around like those first 4 years, that's really when it's the bliss, that's really when it's awesome, and we're so distracted, and once you lose the first 4 years, everything's lost. It's like, no, don't lose the first 4 years by any means. Like he's right. I created one of the viral reels. Mine wasn't viral, but one of the reels, like we're using his his words around this and because I do want to cherish those times, but it's like to anchor to that being the height of parenthood. Yeah, you don't want to think of that as the height of parenthood even.
Yeah.
And I think it actually ties in really good. Like, I've been thinking about this lately too with like a bigger family. His other point around have more kids if you can, basically have more than one kid. It's like that's also part of the beauty of, I think, the way that God designed parenthood and family is that you get to experience these seasons, and then you hate it in a lot of ways. You hate that moment when you're like, oh, I can't hold my 2-year-old again or my baby again because now he's 15 or he's grown out of the house. But it's like, if you are having more kids, you get to experience that cycle again. Yeah. And so now that we're on our third and we have number 4 on the way, it's like you actually get to experience those cycles, and it's beautiful. So like you're in the different seasons of childhood and parenting like simultaneously. Yeah. And so my parents, for instance, they spread it out all the way. So it was like 18 years between like the 5 of us, right? But like there never was a time where they didn't have kids in their house, because by the time that my youngest brother was out of the house, they had grandkids in their house. And like that's actually a pretty beautiful way to live life. So
yeah.
I read his "Don't miss the first 4 years," and again, having a 3 and a 4-year-old in the home right now, I read that as not necessarily like idolizing it, but the first 4 years are so freaking hard that like don't put all of your mental energy into how hard it is.
Yeah.
And like look like and really look for the sweet moments and like rest in those sweet moments, because there's a lot more hard than there is, at least in that. I mean, we obviously don't have any kids older than 4, so we haven't experienced what you've experienced yet. But that's how I took it, was like the first 4 years are so freaking hard, but don't miss it. Like, be present for it. And I catch myself, like JJ was walking up the stairs the other day. He had a shirt on, no pants, no underwear, just like half his little butt cheeks showing as he's like walking up the stairs. And I in my mind, like our good friend Brandon Reed told me on my wedding day, he was like, take as many mental images as you possibly can on your wedding day. And I'm trying to carry that in to this season. And one of the, like, I caught myself watching little JJ like dance his way up the stairs with a shirt halfway down his butt, with his little butt cheeks hanging out, is like a mental, like, I just don't want to forget this. Like, I'm trying to like take a snapshot of that in my mind so I can carry it with me forever.
I read that. We all kind of read that little bit differently. The way I understood Peterson, again, I've got 3 kids that are 4 and younger, so I've not yet experienced that. Letty's almost like 4.5. And so I read it as more like it seemed like from 0 to 4-ish, there's a rapid evolution of your kid, like how much they change and transform, and then they reach a point where they're like, where that rapid like evolution plateaus a bit. Like they're kind of are who they are personality wise, and then they just like are getting bigger, their version of that. Like, so when you get a 5 or 6 year old, they're kind of, in a lot of ways, not that they can't be molded, but like in a lot of ways they are who they are, and they're just like for the next 70 years are just a ever getting older version of that. Where from like 0 to 4, 0 to 5, it feels like they're learning so much, they're so different, that the speed of which they're learning and transforming seems so much faster. And, again, I'm not having experienced that of the olders. So that's what I thought he meant by that. And so I was sort of like, just like the things that, like, we were just on this road trip for a year and a half.
Phil, a year and a half.
That's how long it takes to get to the Ark encounter.
We were, our family was on a road trip for a week and a half, and like there's things that Letty is like shouting from the back seat of like she's like seeing things and observing. I'm like, oh, I didn't know she knew that, or I don't think she realized that. And she's like seeing people. She's like, Dad, that guy's running. I don't think that's a good choice. I'm like,
yuck.
Why is that
running?
Like it's just, and I'm like, why is it not a good choice? Oh, I think he's gonna fall. I'm like, oh, maybe at some point she's heard, don't run, you might fall. Like there's just like it's just these funny things that she's observing, like, and there's vocabulary she's using, and I just wonder, like, if you have a 10-year-old, from the time they were from like 10 to 13, they're gonna grow up, but it's not as drastic as like 1 to 3. And you're like, oh gosh, don't miss. It feels like there's an urgency to like, like don't miss a single moment, a single day, because there's so much change happening.
Yeah.
I want to witness it. I want to enjoy it. And I want to make sure I'm speaking into that evolution, that transformation.
Well, the way that I read it was like blink and you'll miss it kind of feeling, which is always scary for me because I'm like, well, I work all the time. So I obviously don't want to feel like I missed it. But at the same time, there's only so many hours in the day that I can spend with Levi. So the way I read that is like really make sure that you're doing that.
Yeah,
you know,
count.
like
Yeah.
I felt convicted if I'm holding Levi and he's asleep on me and I'm just mindlessly scrolling like shorts or something. I felt convicted about that. Like for some reason in my mind, there's a difference, or maybe like God wants to tell me that there's a difference between completely being like mindless while I'm holding my precious child versus doing something and I'm holding my precious child. So like I could be like listening to a podcast or something, and for some reason that feels different because I'm still able to savor the moment that I'm in, even though I might be listening to an audiobook or whatever. Versus like when you're mindlessly scrolling, time is you don't even understand the passage of time. Like an entire nap time where he would spend an hour and a half in my arms could be gone in a blink because I spent the whole time scrolling, and I experienced none of holding him. Versus if I'm listening to a book or doing something that's a little bit more, I don't know, that's a little bit less, let me just plug myself into the matrix, you know?
I like that you did the motion. You guys gave this.
So I felt convicted about that. But then I have a totally different thought about this. And that is something that I say with Nicole a lot, because we have month by month books that she makes. So she'll make a book for each month of Levi's life. She'll do that till he's 1, and then we'll probably do something different. But we'll be looking at like month 3 or whatever. We'll be like, oh, it's gone already. He's so different now. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, because he's right there. Like, yes, he is now doesn't look like this, and there's things that he did at this time that he doesn't do now, and vice versa. But my son is actually right there. And this is what I want to have. And I want to have this for every phase of his life. And that's been my prayer. So like my prayer almost every night about Levi is, obviously I pray the usual, God, you know, would you have a relationship with him, save him from his sins, be close to him, give him everything that you've given me and more. Like those are prayers that I pray over him. Nice. But then my prayer about me with him is, God, I want to have a good relationship with him through whatever a great relationship means through each phase of his life. And that means that I have a great relationship with him as a 9-month-old, whatever that means. And I have a great relationship with him as a 9-year-old, whatever that means, and a 19-year-old, whatever that means, and a 39-year-old, whatever that means. And I really want to have that, because when I think about my life with my parents, there were a couple of phases where, and I'll take blame for it, like I was the idiot, but if only... Like, I want to have the attitude that, like, God, I want to have a great relationship with this child despite whatever idiot things he's doing for this phase of his life.
Yeah.
What were y'all's takes on make your child socially desirable by age 4?
So I disagree with that one. So, but as I've thought about it more, like, thinking about the biting of the arm thing, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that is, like, a good rubric to have for whether or not a parent is doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. But where my brain immediately went was, I was like, well, how would the Bible answer that question? Because the Bible doesn't answer the question with make them socially desirable. I asked ChatGPT, and of course it's ChatGPT, so I probably get hate for using ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is a little bit woke, so like it's not going to include certain Bible verses. But I was like taking all Bible passages about parenting and putting them together. What is a parent's main job? Because that's what he's kind of getting at. And it references Deuteronomy. It references these verses. So Deuteronomy 6:6-7. These words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children and shall talk of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the house and when you lie down and when you rise up. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he's old, he'll not depart from it. Ephesians 6:4, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Hebrews 12:11, for the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. So righteousness, which has the secondary effect of desirability, is is like an effect of this thing that we're supposed to be doing. Anyway, when you put it all together, the summary is parents are called to faithfully disciple their children, teaching God's word, modeling godly character, nurturing them with love, guiding them with discipline, and pointing their hearts to the Lord who made them. And that will have the second order benefit of making them desirable to the culture. Or it won't. Or the culture will hate them.
Yeah. I think that's whenever I first read this, when I first heard this from Peterson, and like I think Peterson's brilliant. I respect a lot of things he says, so I'm always nervous to disagree with him. So I'm like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm the dummy. But I understood what he's saying by this. It's a little bit pragmatic. It's a little bit utilitarian. Like, he's like the reason why you want your kids to be socially desirable is this practical reason. It felt of the 9 rules, it felt like the one, in my opinion, it felt a little bit less rooted in something morally right or wrong, or something that would be really help them flourish. It felt a little bit more pragmatic, and it's not necessarily bad, but I think it gives us more latitude to disagree with that. The reason particularly this one stuck out to me because I have a 4-year-old daughter who is very high energy by any rubric. She's
your daughter.
She's my daughter, exactly. Like when you see her hang out with other kids her age, and it didn't really dawn on me until kind of recently. I've been in a couple different settings where she's been around kids her age, and I'm like, oh, she's the most animated. She's the most expressive. She's the most demonstrative. She uses her hands. She's the loudest one of the bunch. She's assertive. She's the one trying to run the show. It is like a 4-year-old girl version of Kenny. It is. It is.
It's wild watching her interact with JJ. I'm like, wow, she is little Kenny.
It is.
Wow.
And for all good and ills. And I'm like, is that genetic or did she just observe that? I don't know how that works. But and so I do think there are lots of people in our society that would say Letty, my daughter, is not socially desirable because she's loud. Like that's kind of the main reason. But then she's high energy and she wants to talk and wants to be involved. And what a lot of people want is just the quiet kid that doesn't interrupt. Like if you're a distraction, that's socially undesirable. And I'm like, well, that's not the right rubric. So I felt guilty for a while. I'm like, am I a bad dad? Am I a bad parent? Wrestling with these things. But then over the last 6 to 9 months, I've been in a couple environments with really guys that I was here, really good dads that have a lot of kids, and watching them interact with Letty or them observe Letty. I'm like, oh, they know that's normal kid. That's in the realm or the range of normal kid. And so, on this road trip I alluded to earlier, we're in Minnesota with a really good friend of mine who was my pastor in Minnesota. He has 8 kids. And most of them are, 7 of them are all older than my kids. So he's been through the stage. So we're hanging out at his house on Sunday afternoon, and Letty is hanging out with 2 of his daughters that are around her age. And they're all the same. They're outside playing and kind of just being loud and obnoxious, and they're outside being loud. And that she's not abnormal. It's that our society expects things of her. So she's going to be louder and more obnoxious than the average kid, sure, because she's my kid, and I am louder and more obnoxious than the average human. And so that's okay, but she's not out of the realm of normal, the range. She's not going to be acceptable to some people. So I guess I get Peterson's point. We want to make our kids socially desirable and acceptable. That there's an element to that that's true, but whose rubric are you using? So Timmy saying no, the Bible's rubric, or parents that are older than me, who are wiser than me, who have more experience than me. What's their rubric? Rather than the single 30-year-old girl on the airplane who gives me the looks that my kid is being too loud, or the guy at Starbucks, or the person at church who doesn't have kids, who looks at the mom who's got the crying kid. Like, I can tell, as a preacher, I can tell who is bothered by the kid crying in service and who is not. And the person bothered, often the problem's with them. And so Letty may not be socially desirable to everyone, but most of the time, that's their problem, not Letty's problem.
And even the frame that he uses, you want your kids to not be thinking how can I be socially desirable? You want them to be thinking, how can I honor this person? Just like I'm supposed to honor my parents. So you're teaching them the biblical truths. And the reality of those things is if you're working on their hearts in the right way, people will see that and they'll actually stand out a bunch too. So instead of just being I'm thinking of the ADHD kids, ADD kids, that are normal kids for the most part, most of them very normal kids, but the culture may see them and be oh, they need to be medicated, they need to be whatever, they need to be quieter. And it's actually we should be focusing on their hearts and not caring so much about whether they're socially accepted, but are they being honoring to God, which means they're going to honor their parents, and it means they're going to honor and respect authority as well too.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts on this Peterson 9 rules for parenting?
Overall, I thought it was good. I think that if Peterson were here, he'd probably pretty much agree with he probably would have said that that's not what he meant, or that he was just like, you want your kid to not bite the flesh off the other children's arms.
Yeah. I think guys like Peterson, who seemingly has a lot of ideas we would agree with as Christians, he's not an evangelical Christian. I don't know where he's at in faith today. It feels like every time I watch him, he's in a different part of his journey. But there's clearly elements of truth and biblical truth that he has embraced and has shaped him. But more than that, just truth in the world is true. Whether you believe the Bible or not, truth is truth. And old adage, all truth is God's truth. Clearly, Jordan Peterson is a guy who understands the reality of how the world works, and therefore he has a lot of wisdom to offer. We just want to be discerning. We want to use biblical script. We want to use scripture and the community of God to help decipher or vet or discern where he might be slightly off. But in general, I think it's good to consult guys like Peterson.
We got spirit, and I know you hear it. There's no give up in us.